John Cook set to start year 25 with the Huskers. John, always great to see you. And before we do look ahead to this year, and I know you're really excited for the roster that you have, I think we have to start by looking back at last year. And I started our Media Days coverage by saying I thought the year was defined by the number 92,003. And I don't want us to ever forget, as the years go past and we get further away from that event, what Volleyball Day at Nebraska meant to your program, to this sport, and to women's sport as a whole. How often do you still think about it?
I think about it all the time because everywhere we go, it comes up and people are still talking about it. And of course, you see videos and clips from it all the time on social media. And I still get chills. I think it was a defining moment for women's sports. And I think we've all seen since that moment what happened in women's athletics over the course of the past year. And for Nebraska, I think it's a sign of pride that we did this. And it's a world record, and Huskers love it.
I loved hearing you say this is the only place that this could happen, and every single one of those 92,003 certainly agreed with you. The offseason gets shorter every year, I know, but I'm sure after doing this for as long as you've been doing it, you understand you have to recharge during the summer. I'm going to guess here that most of your recharge time was spent either on a horse, at a ranch, or at a rodeo. How close is that guess to reality?
You're right on the money. It wasn't at the beach. It wasn't going to Paris or whatever. It was those three things right there. And I think it's really important. And one of the things I talk about, you got to have a hobby if you're in a high-level performing type job. And so I found this horse thing, and it's kind of just gone crazy from there.
We're seeing pictures of it right now, living proof.
Where are we?
That there is visual proof right there.
That's the Burwell Rodeo. I'd never been to Burwell, Nebraska before, but it is the oldest rodeo in America. This is the 103rd year of this rodeo, and it is a happening in the middle of the sandhills of Nebraska. And I had a great time there, and what I discovered was those people bleed Husker out there. They love Husker sports, and the fact that one of the Nebraska coaches went and spent 4 days out there with them was a really big deal.
I remember asking you last year then if you defined yourself with your beach background as more of a beach bum or a cowboy, and you said it's not even close, I'm a cowboy. So now the follow-up to that is, are you a cowboy trapped in a coach's body, or are you a coach trapped in a cowboy's body?
The last 3 months I've been a cowboy trapped in a, however you say it, I've been a cowboy more than a coach, but now I put everything away, and now it's full-blown coaching from here on out, for the next 6 months or whatever it is. So, but I had a great time with it, and it's a great hobby, and I met so many really cool people. But the thing that I really try to communicate with everybody is working with these horses and riding these horses has made me a better coach, because you have to earn the trust of that horse, and you got to get him to do what you want him to do, and you can't really talk to him. Although I do think they understand English, some of them. And so for me, I'm approaching coaching my teams the same way. We got to build that trust. We've got to work together, and it's just really, really important. And when you do that, it's awesome.
And it's a team that worked together so well a year ago, and you return so much of that team. I know the expectations are in Lincoln every year to win a national championship. I'm not sure they can be any higher than they are this year with the roster that you have coming back. How do you approach a year like this when you're so deep, you're so experienced, and you also bring in a transfer who, by the way, 2 years ago was the Big Ten Player of the Year in Taylor Landfair?
Yeah, and what I've discovered over the years is, and now with college athletics changing, is you almost have to reinvent every year. I got to reinvent our coaching staff, I got to reinvent myself, and I got to reinvent the team, because there's so much change going on with the portal and all that. Do we have the talent to compete? Yes, but we still have to become a great team, and that's on our players, it's on our culture, it's on our captains, and then our work ethic, and then how are we going to handle the big moments. And I think our team is pretty motivated, because even though we lost the national championship, there was a lot of learning that went on in that, and we've got to learn from that and use that as motivation. If we would have lost in 5 by 2, then everybody's, well, it was a great season, tough break. But the way we played has been burning in our players and my coaches.
I know it's a problem that most coaches would like to have, but sometimes when you have so much talent, especially an overload of talent at one specific position, the problem becomes there's only one volleyball on the court. So in the past, when you've had teams with this kind of talent, how have you figured out that part of the chemistry?
It's every year's an adventure, and again, it comes back to culture, and it's about Nebraska volleyball, and it's about our team, and how are we going to become this great team that plays what I call ultimate trust. And it's not something you just make up. It's just not something you just talk about. It has to happen and evolve, and that's our job as coaches, is to help them develop that. And we've been here before, and there's been years that we haven't been expected to do anything, and we've had great years. And there's years where we've been expected to do it, and we've blown it. So I've gone through both, and so that's one of the things about as you get older, you have more experience. So I feel like I got, we got a pretty good handle on it. But we're going to get tested, and it's this Big Ten schedule now is a really challenging, competitive schedule, which is going to be fun. For you guys, the media, the fans, it's going to be fun. For coaches, it's going to be stressful.
You have 5 players in the preseason All Big Ten team. Could have easily had 6 had Lindsay Krause not gotten injured, cut her year short a year ago. I know she's here as one of your player reps. When healthy, what can she provide for your team?
Well, she showed us last year that, we switched her to the left side. The first 2 years she played right side, and she showed us that she could really dominate, not only attacking, but also serving. She's a great server, and she was putting up numbers that were very rare for any Nebraska player or anybody in the Big Ten. And then she was injured and had a really tough injury. So she's really worked hard to come back. She had a great spring, and like I said, we have a lot of individual players that should be very motivated. She would be one of them.
Kennedi Orr is also with you, a player who has been, and I say this in the most positive way, something of a utility player and effective in those roles and that specific format. What kind of jump can you expect from her this year? How much more of a role will you expect her to play this season?
Well, one thing I look for is last week we did our performance index test, and she tested higher than she's ever tested. So that told me she's worked harder than she ever has, and she just went to another level physically. Kennedi is kind of the heart and soul of our team, as a leader, as a teammate, and she'll do whatever role we ask her. And in whatever side of the net she's on in practice, she just elevates it. Whatever we have her do. There's times where I think she could be a hitter. She's just a great all-around volleyball player who can do a lot of things really well. And that's one of the reasons I wanted her to experience this and show her how much respect we have for what she's done for our program and our team, and what a great teammate she is.
I think she might be in there. I think I may have heard a chuckle when you said that she could maybe be a hitter as well. I think that may have actually been coming from her.
That'll be on the way home. Coach, you're gonna let me hit. Let's go. I'm ready to go.
But then you did it. It's your own fault because you're the one that threw out the suggestion.
Yeah.
We certainly know that Merritt Beeson is a player who can do that, who came in last year and just lit it up. She is a unanimous All Big Ten preseason selection this year, will certainly be in the running for National Player of the Year. How much room does she still have to grow?
That was a big talk in the spring with her is, okay, you're already at this first team All-American level. How are you going to go up another notch? And I use the analogy of Usain Bolt. Okay, he breaks the world record. Is he going to do it every time? No, but he's working to try to break it again. And for her, it was some little things that we could tweak with her to help her be a better attacker, better blocker, better passer, all those things. She worked really hard, had a great spring. So I think she's one of those players that's kind of blooming late in her career, which is kind of fun to see. And that's how it was in the old days. We used to redshirt everybody and watch them develop. But these guys play so much volleyball now. But she's kind of a late bloomer, and I'm excited to see. She had a great summer with USA team this summer, but she's worked really hard on refining her game.
When folks ask me about places to go watch different sporting events in the Big Ten, I always say when it comes to volleyball, you have to get to Lincoln to watch a match, and you will not be disappointed. I know you've coached a lot of matches there. Does the feeling ever get old, and are you still, at this point, kind of blown away by what this fan base does, regardless of who the opponent is in town, regardless of whether you're on a win streak or a losing streak? You know what that building is going to be.
Yes, I think it's one of the best places to play volleyball in the world as a facility with our fan base. And to give you an example of how they're taking it up a notch, our red-white sold out. So this is a scrimmage we're going to have in a couple of weeks, sold out in about 4 hours. 8,000 people, or almost 9,000 people coming to see the red-white game. And I don't know if we've ever done that before. We've sold it out before, but sold out in 4 hours. It just shows you the excitement level that people have. And again, I think this is an opportunity for people to buy tickets to see us play that maybe we're at that stadium match but don't have season tickets. And so that just shows you the demand. And I think you're going to see that in a lot of Big Ten programs, this ticket demand and people wanting to get in and see matches. And I think you're going to see more and more sellouts as we go down the schedule here.
Yeah, we're seeing attendance records set everywhere, whether it's in East Lansing or other Big Ten schools that traditionally haven't sold out their arenas. They're selling out on a fairly regular basis, regardless of the opponent. Your program, one of those driving the amazing rise in popularity of this sport. Would you have ever believed when you started in this business, coaching, that volleyball would have the television coverage, the media coverage, the access, and the belief in it from a fan base that it has right now?
No, and I can remember when I was coaching at Wisconsin and fighting with the Big Ten, trying to get them to put a match on TV and trying to promote women's volleyball, and it was just, it was kind of an afterthought. And now to see what, and again, you got to give the Big Ten credit for driving all this, because they've done a heck of a job and have really increased it, and have really put women's volleyball on every TV in the country. Everybody has a chance to, whether it's streaming or watching it live, to see women's volleyball in the Big Ten. And adding the 4 new teams from the West Coast is just going to enhance it even more.
So does the non-conference schedule. I talked with Kelly and Dave about this as well. The premier programs refusing to say we are going to play a softer non-con just because our league gets tough. We're going to show your non-con and part of your conference schedule here in just a little bit. But you have Kentucky, you have Creighton, you have Stanford, you have Louisville. I mean, we're talking about the cream of the crop before we get in to the Big Ten schedule. How important has that been to this sport, that the best are playing the best, and how important will it be for that to continue if we want this trajectory to stay in the right direction?
Yeah, and again, you may ask all the coaches at the end of the year if that non-conference
Different
was
answer.
worthy. Yeah, but what we feel, we have great opportunity to play these top teams, and they're going to be televised. It's going to be a big deal. There's going to be huge crowds. We're going to the site of the Final Four twice with Kentucky and then playing Louisville there later. Stanford's coming to Nebraska this year. Creighton's always a great match, and they're going to have probably the best team they've ever had. So all these matches, TV wants it, and they crave it, and I just think it's great exposure for our sport. And it really sets up the Big Ten Conference once all that starts happening. So this is where it's at, and I think, it's no different in football. Everybody wants to see 2 great teams that aren't in the conference going at it, and I think it's no different in volleyball. So it's going to be exciting for the fans and for you guys.
Well, let's finish here. You brought up all the change in volleyball, in sports as a whole. As long as you've done that, this is probably the most change that we've ever seen in college sports as a whole in a 2 or 3 year period. How are you handling it all within your program? Because a lot of it, especially the revenue sharing, still remains a complete unknown.
You're right, and that is an unknown, and you got to be ready to adapt, and that's the key for me. But in regards to the new teams coming in and all that, you just said it when we first came on here. You got this new thing that fires you up in here. Okay, this is a new thing that's going to fire coaches up. I mean, we're going to have to go to another level, and it's going to challenge coaches, coaching staffs, and coaches and teams to go to another level. And how are we going to manage the travel, extra travel now, and rest and recovery, and still be student athletes? So to me, I look at this is a really cool challenge, and it's never been done before, so let's go after it and see how it goes. And so it's excited me and energized me, and I think my staff as well.
Sure, the unknown can be as fun as it could be scary, but I think we're looking at a very fun 2024. John, always great to catch up. Truly appreciate the time.
Thank you.
We discussed some of the schedule. I promise you could see it in visual form, and here it is, that Kentucky match, right, to start things off, and then Creighton, John says, maybe the best team the Blue Jays have ever had. Stanford in Lincoln. Pretty sure you're not going to get tickets to that one, folks, if you don't have them already. And then the roadie against Louisville. So many good matches on this schedule, and that is before we get into Big Ten play. But this roster is ready for it, and two of the players that highlight that roster are with Elena and Holly.
Thanks so much, Rick. Holly and I are back, this time joined by Kennedi Orr and Lindsay Krause from Nebraska Volleyball. Welcome to the studio. Hope you guys have been having so much fun at Big Ten Media Days so far.
Yes.
We just touched on your non-conference schedule, and I'm sure you guys take it one game at a time. But out of those matches, are there any that you're most looking forward to, or you can say all of them, but would love if you have any of them specifically.
For sure, all of them. I'm really excited for Creighton. I always love that game.
Yeah.
It's super fun to play another in-state team, so I'd say Creighton.
Yeah, I would say Creighton's always the one on the schedule we always look forward to. We have a lot of great teams that we play in the non-conference, but Creighton, being that other kind of in-state rivalry, it's always great whenever we play either at Bob Devaney or if we're playing at CHI Health. It's always a really great game, and we love. It's almost like the Nebraska celebration.
Yeah.
Lindsay, you were hurt most of the year last year. We didn't get to see you play. What did you learn? What kind of perspective did that give you being on the bench looking in?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it just brought me kind of a new perspective of how much I love the sport of volleyball and how much I love playing with my teammates every day. Sometimes when you're caught in the grind of, college athletics or anything, it can get kind of monotonous. However, it was as soon as that was taken away, it's almost like a reassess, and I realized how much I loved doing it and how much I missed it. And so I was just so grateful to be able to be back on the court this spring.
Did you find your voice from the bench, being able to talk to these young players?
Yeah, for sure. And I feel like that was something that the new dynamic taught me, was how can I provide and have a role on my team just in a very different way. And I think that was something that my teammates were very open to helping me learn, but also very open to hearing what I had to say, even though I was in a different position.
Kennedi, you've taken a new role on this team, leadership for sure. And you can tell the young players look up to you and love you. Your coach said you came in more fit than you've ever been. What are you most excited about this season?
I'm just excited for the little things. It's our senior year, and it's so crazy to think that we've already been at Nebraska for 4 years. It's been a wild ride, to say the least, and also the best experience. So genuinely taking every little moment and being present with it. I don't want to skip a moment. So.
You guys had an incredible season last season, fell short in the last match. A few of the players were saying, look, this is going to really fire us up for next season. How has the intensity or attention to detail changed in the gym?
Yeah, for sure. We've had a great summer, all summer. It was a little bit tough at first because about half the team went to overseas to play USA Volleyball. So anytime we could get in the gym, we were fired up, we were ready to go. Every second that we had together this summer was super important, and we knew that. And going into this fall season, we're super excited and motivated to get to the last game of the season.
Yeah, I think it's just something that really fuels us. I think as we had a few months removed from it, we realized that we could use the ending of that season, even though it was something that was very heartbreaking for us, we could find the middle ground of using it to fuel us without getting too hung up on it and being too stuck in the past, because ultimately that could hurt us. So I feel like we did a lot of working as a team to find the middle ground of being able to fuel us just the right amount so that we can work even harder this year.
There's no way we can talk about last season without bringing up Volleyball Day in
Yeah,
Nebraska. That was incredible to see. I was watching it from here, but getting chills. I can't imagine what it was like to play in that match. Can you guys just explain that experience and what it meant to you both to play in that match?
Yeah, I think to this day still, I cannot describe what Volleyball Day meant and what playing in a football stadium is really like, but I like to equate it to, like, you looked out and it looked like a video game, you were in a movie.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was like a green screen.
Exactly, little specks everywhere. It was insane, and I think building up to that day, we didn't understand the amount of influence that it would have and what it would really mean, and then straight from the tunnel walk is when it all kind of hit me, and I think our whole team. And
Yeah.
it was just this is more than us, this is more than our team, this is for women's sports as a whole. And I am so grateful and honored that our team could be a part of that, and how hard that our program, the Big Ten, and everyone worked for it. I'm just so special.
Yeah, and I think something that was really special for all of us was when we were doing our tunnel walk from the locker room out onto the field, I guess you could say, but out onto the court. On both sides of the red carpet was all women who ever played for Nebraska were invited to be on both sides and kind of be there as our fans for the tunnel walk. And so I think it was just very eye-opening for all of us, knowing that we didn't get here ourselves. You know, every single woman who's ever played for this team over the last 50 years has been the ones and the driving factors that have gotten us here. So it was very eye-opening, and it was very, very cool for all of us to see, and it definitely brought tears to our eyes.
We know how hard and intense it is to be a Nebraska Cornhusker. A lot of pressure, a lot of expectations. How do you guys unplug as a group?
Oh gosh. This past summer, we spent a lot of time together because we'd have a big group and we had a little group, and we were just like, all right, we got to stick together somehow. So whether that was, watching Love Island every single day. We loved it. We'd watch horror movies.
Scary movie nights.
Yeah, just every movie night that we had. I think we always just remember that we're humans and we're friends before we're teammates. So we like to spend a lot of time with each other outside of volleyball.
Yeah, and doing things that make us happy outside.
And what kind of focus have you put on culture? Because I know you're welcoming in some new players as well.
Yeah, for sure. Every summer we talk about culture, and that's really, of course, we're building muscle, we're getting stronger over the summer, but I think our main priority is building culture and what we want the next season to look like, because every single team is different. So we like to have meetings, we like to have little things throughout the summer, talk about what this specific team looks like and what we're going to take into the season, and how we're building our culture, not only with just that team too, but also how we look at the program in the history of Nebraska volleyball and what that means to us.
Yeah, and I think part of the reason that makes us so strong as one unit, as a team, is we put at the forefront of our brains and really prioritize the importance of building the relationships first before we go on the court to compete with one another. I think in order to make it in this program, we know how competitive we have to be. However, we prioritize our relationships so that our competition on the court don't affect those relationships. And then having that, balance and that stability of our culture is really what makes us successful.
And would you say your culture is player-driven, coach-driven, whole group together?
I think it's very collaborative.
Yeah, I would say we always want it to be player-driven, but we're also blessed to have former Huskers, Lindsay Peterson, Kelly Hunter, Jordan Larson, a part of our coaching staff and program. So it's definitely a big collaborative thing, and we get to learn from everyone in the program, coaches and players. We have players from other teams as well who know some things that maybe we don't. So.
Yes, it's all very great. We have a great dynamic, and I think something that also helps is all three of those former players we had all played for Coach. Not to try and call Coach old, but all three of our people on our staff also played for Coach. They're able to find the middle ground. They now have a different relationship with him, but they also know what it's like to be in our shoes, So I think it's also really great, and that's something that we have, and that's a really big bonus.
Some of those Husker alumni that you guys just mentioned, obviously Jordan Larson, they're over in Paris right now representing Team USA, representing Husker volleyball. What does it mean to you guys to be able to see, like, those girls were in my shoes and now look at where they're at, and then to be able to learn from them in your gym as well?
I think Jordan specifically, born and raised in Nebraska, and as someone who is also born and raised in Nebraska, I've never lived anywhere else, I think it's really something that's beautiful to see. You see her being from a small town and just all the things that she was able to do and continuing to evolve and, still playing at this point after such a long pro career. I think it's something that's really beautiful, and I think it's something that's very inspiring for all people. And so being able to have her on our staff and being able to learn from her and all the wisdom that she has is something that's been unmatched.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I remember growing up and watching the Rio Olympics and being like, oh, I want to be a part of that. And then having Jordan as a coach too, I think you see the person side of her. And that's also so special because we talk about being people outside of volleyball. And knowing that Jordan does that at the highest level and she also prioritizes that is super cool. And I think it's taught our team a lot about that volleyball teaches you more than just volleyball. Like, it teaches you a lot about life and being a woman.
Yeah.
Well, Lindsay, Kennedi, thank you so much for your time today. We can't wait to watch you take the court this season. Hope you have a great rest of the day at Big Ten Media Days.
Thank you, guys.